Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS Marketing Makeover. I am excited to be joined by the VP of Marketing at a company that we went through an extensive RFP process for in their industry, and we actually chose them. So it's very cool to see her here today. It's Casted and how they amplify your content regardless of what medium or channel you're using. So welcome to the show, Holly Pels, VP of Marketing.
So happy and a little nervous to be here.
Do not be nervous. You're going to crush it. I always get nervous, but this is going to be fun. As for everybody tuning in for the first time, I do not know who's on the wheel. Holly does not know who's on the wheel, let alone who the wheel is going to land on. Ooh. I always like to ask Holly, who do you hope it is? Like, who do you want to audit today? Like, who do you kind of want to provide some positive inspiration to?
Man, don't even know. I told you, I watched a few of these and they were so different every time. I did see Gusto. I love Gusto as a brand. Love to see them, but I know they won't come up on the wheel because I've already seen them.
I know. And I love their stuff too. I'm like, man, that was one of my favorites because they own their positioning, they own their marketplace. And I used them, I think, for 6 years without one complaint from over like a couple hundred people. I mean, that's a pretty powerful system.
Yeah, we use it here. We have conversations all the time about, I didn't even know they could do that. And so like, I do think I could give some strategy there, but I know that one won't come up because I just saw it on another one of your shows. So
let's see who we think of. Let's see. Shaylee, give us the wheel. Let's see who it is today. So I believe FreshBooks is like SMB accounting. Let me see if I got my head on straight.
But right, Gusto was on the list. Also, Zoom was on the list, so which I could have done Zoom. We could have had it.
Oh. All right, so let's see FreshBooks. All right, it is FreshBooks accounting software built for owners.
Okay.
So I want to start off with a question, Holly. Can you be even more SMB than QuickBooks?
Fun story. I told you earlier before we got on that I worked for an SEO agency for 4 years. And for over a year, my biggest client was Intuit QuickBooks. So I did so much work. I helped them launch their small business resource center. I did so many things. Yep. So no, I don't think you can be, but I'm guessing they're trying to compete with this. And QuickBooks is such
interesting though, right? Like it's an interesting conundrum in the sense that if you're in the FP&A function, if you're in the accounting world, everyone treats QuickBooks as, well, they're great if you're an SMB.
Yep.
But SMB owners all use them too, don't they? Like my dad had QuickBooks. My business partner's dad, who's a plumber, he has QuickBooks. Like I come from blue collar, like SMB family, QuickBooks. So it's very interesting.
It's such an interesting model for them because Intuit's such a big company, and Intuit has so many different variations, and QuickBooks is almost their product-led piece, right? Because as a small business, right out of college, I worked at a small company and helped them do some side stuff, and they used QuickBooks, and it was free for them because they were such a small business. But then obviously as you get bigger, there's the bigger options to move up and upgrade and do all of that. So very interesting.
So that's our context. I think that context is important. So the context is right there. Now let's look at this. I think this is quite clever. So how do you beat QuickBooks then? I think is a great question, right? You have to figure out, what does QuickBooks leave you wanting, right? And so I think one of the cool parts about what FreshBooks is doing is they are trying to niche it into these verticals. Now, businesses with employees, I mean, we are really talking to a certain type of size right now, which I think is smart of them, right? So like, are you a business with employees? Are you self-employed? Are you a freelancer? Or do you use contractors? Now, I think my question is, let's see if they actually execute this, because I've always found niching like this is really hard to actually execute the content on, so that someone who is self-employed believes that you're uniquely better for them. Your billing struggles in here. So they have like billing is a pain point, right? Get a complete picture of your client and business health. Build relationships through great client experiences. So they're really pushing the billing side of it. What do you think about that? Do you think billing is an area that is an opportunity compared to, let's say, a PayPal, right? Because I would imagine at this point, if you're like self-employed, like you're using PayPal probably for billing or something like that, right?
Potentially, but then you might run into, what if you have to 1099 people? What if you have to do some of those things that are outside of maybe the typical, right, one-off payment or small? Like when you start getting taxes involved, that's where billing, I think, kind of overruns, which is, I think, where like the QuickBooks, and maybe I'm making an assumption that this is
Yeah.
going to also solve because it's saying accounting, probably might be more than a PayPal, but I don't know enough about PayPal for business to say that.
I completely agree. Let's just see how they position small business. So let's just understand pricing. So you can start at $750 a month. Okay. And they offer 70% off. Over here.
And they did 60. They had it right on the top. 60.
60, but for 6 months,
Yeah.
I think QuickBooks is only doing 3.
Yeah.
But the number's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They also offer a free trial for 30 days. Oh, no. I see. You can either give them all your money or you can test them. That's actually quite clever.
Yeah, I've
I like
never seen that before. Is this with or without the free
Brilliant
trial? Sorry, I'm
negotiation,
trying
though,
to.
right?
Yeah.
You're leveraging the trial with the buy now. What does QuickBooks do? So, or FreshBooks, sorry.
FreshBooks. Oh, they have the
Monthly,
same thing.
a little cheaper.
Yeah.
You can buy now and save, or you can do the yearly. That's a confusing. Okay, 60% off for 6 months, 10% off yearly price. So then you pay. That's not as simple as I think they think it is. I'm now lost.
I'm a little confused, and because this model of pay monthly, show the really low price, like that's common across all of these, like small,
Correct.
like think of all the social one-off tools, all those things. That's
exactly.
pretty common, right? But now we have made it more complicated by adding an additional value on top, saying you could get 60% off if you do this. Do they have a free trial? I can't see if that's like the toggle.
Oh, they do.
Or
So try it free is right here. I like this page, by the way. This is the best try free page I've seen in an audit recently.
I love save up to 7,000 a year in billable hours. I love a value prop right away that you know what you're going to get out of it.
No, this is really, really strong CRO in the sense of like how they're writing their copy. They've got single click signups. They've got email plus password. Try it free, get 60% off buy now. They still have the upsell that takes you back to the buy now and save. Create your account to purchase plan. I mean, I think they do a really good job of taking your money. I got to give that to them.
Which is what they want to do.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what we're all trying to do, right? We're all trying to get people to give us their money to a certain extent. I think they do that quite well. I don't think this copy is very good, though. This 10% off. I think watch what happens if you delete this. And then you get rid of. So if you get rid of that, and you get rid of this, I think their conversion rate goes to the roof.
It's a little too small for me to see what it said. It said save 10%.
I did. It says 10% off yearly price, but with the 60, I can't tell if they're just screwing me on the back half of the contract and they're only giving me 10% off, or if I'm actually getting 60% off. I think what they do is they just give you 60% off for 6 months, and the price is like goes up, and then you end up only saving 10% on the year. But I'm not sure because of the way they wrote it.
And I think that's, I mean, you want to take the guesswork out of it. If you're going to give people a deal and you're going to say it's this and you're going to save money and you want them to go towards this, which is obviously what they want you to do, hence the 60% off for 6 months, clear as day. Let's just tell me how much it is. Otherwise, if I have to sit and do math, that makes it a little bit less attractive.
Oh, and it is unattractive. I just realized. I just saw something new too. If I was FreshBooks. So this is how they quote. This is how they scope you. They scope your butt on bill. I thought that this was like some weird language that you could like resell the platform. No, you can send invoices to only 5 people at this price point.
Oh, that's an interesting model for how they're breaking down.
Yeah, so they're using usage. So it's actually based off of invoices sent. See how they even cap it at 50? Let's see how QuickBooks is capping it. It doesn't look like they're. I've never heard anyone cap invoices. That's like a very cheeky.
Well, clients, I guess. So it's not invoices. It's how many clients you're managing within the system. Is that?
Yeah, I think it is correct. So unlimited invoices to up to 5 clients. But I mean, that's a they're now more expensive than QuickBooks in my mind pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I would also be curious with, like other options. So you said like PayPal earlier. Is that something, are you limited on
I know
that?
I use PayPal for
Then-
like if someone wants to pay me a speaker fee or something like that, I just send a PayPal link and I run all my independent consulting stuff through PayPal, for example.
Oh, well. So if you're a bigger business, that might be more complicated. So there would be value here.
Correct, because this would give you an accounting system of record. But if you look at the yearly price point, you see what I'm saying? You're at 180 on the year versus I can't even do it because I only do months. What is it after the discount? That's what I'm trying to say. Like I don't like they're so good at taking your money, but they're also quite good at confusing you if you want to actually know what's going on.
And even when you do so they have like see offer details above, if you go like to the actual promotion above, and it still doesn't necessarily give you a clear answer into how much you're paying.
Oh yeah, holy cow. This is by their legal team for sure.
Because even, right. I think right now I'm looking at it and I'm saying it says was 25, save 90. So is what I'm looking at right now, this $10 a month or the $6 a month, is that the 60% off or for 6 months, right? Or is it, well, that must be it. Because otherwise that doesn't make sense, right?
Well, yeah, because I think $10 a month, get 60% off for 6 months, but I don't know because like 60% of, you see what I'm saying? Like it's very complicated to figure out what the price actually is.
So you can tell we're not mathematicians, right?
No, we're marketers.
Okay. I also think this is interesting to do it this way, to have kind of switching back between monthly and yearly, have this offer on top of it, because what you would usually see, I'd say here on this type of a pricing page, right, is $10, and then it would say underneath that, or like this. Yes, or like this amount of money for a yearly price or something like that, to give you kind of so it's almost counterintuitive to like, I guess, what you would normally see in my mind, because it's making it more complicated just because they're trying to show you the lower number. Like even
you know what to do though? They go to my idiot brain so well. Like they really do get me excited. 60% off, $6 a month. I'm like, heck yeah. But then I don't catch 5 billable clients. Oh, I can only send invoices to 5 people. Like I lose. Like they somehow like get me to not fully realize it, and they get me excited. It's like very promotional, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is good. I just think I wonder what that does to churn later. So who's it for? This is what we kind of looked at already. So they're doing a lot of who's it for. Integrations is pretty critical, right? So they work with everybody, it looks like, right? Stripe will do your payment processing. Gusto can do your payroll. Bench can do your CPA accounting. Seems like they got the right partnerships. But why do I choose them? I still don't get that part. Why do I use FreshBooks instead of QuickBooks?
And what's interesting is they don't even have a like why. I wonder if they do at the bottom. Do they have, like the footer about us, our story, careers? I think usually I feel like it's a really common thing, especially in software companies now, that we want to buy for a reason, right? Like, so why are we choosing you? More than just about us, more than about your company. Like, what's the value in this specific thing? And I know not everybody does the matrix C's to say, like, compare us to something like that. That can be very picky and choosy. I bet I would be curious if we did a search. Do they do comparisons, FreshBooks versus QuickBooks, or does QuickBooks own that in the search?
I'm sure they do, but let's see. HubSpot decided to chime in. Let's see what they say.
That's smart.
Nobody loves to rank more than them. So, I can't read all that.
But isn't it strange that we just did that and the first thing that you clicked on was a HubSpot? Like that feels like a pretty intuitive article that like a FreshBooks would want to write, or at least have floating on the internet, even if it's not necessarily findable, even if it's just a searchable piece of content, because people are going to search for that. Intuitively, like we're having this conversation of bringing up FreshBooks. The first thing you thought of is, why would I choose this over QuickBooks? So why would we not make that an accessible piece of content? Is this on FreshBooks site or is this on?
This is NerdWallet once again. Yeah, I think if I go in here, let's see. So if I go site, you know this because you're an SEO, and I go and play a little. Whoa, get out of here! Say over. So let's go site, FreshBooks, and then we go QuickBooks. Just to see at a very high level how they think of this. Looking for a QuickBooks alternative. Cool. So billable hours. Okay. Expense categorization. That's not totally true. Team roles, probably not true. Simultaneous users doesn't care about. Proposals, actually, I do care about this a lot. That's a great way that they're better from 2016. You're right. They're not using this at all, and it's very hard for me to understand. And I just don't understand when I get to FreshBooks how they expect me to buy this when the 1,000-pound gorilla is in the room and they just pretend that gorilla doesn't exist.
Yeah, and obviously, like, there are things that you can focus on and pinpoint, but think about how people go out and do things. We want to go look for reviews. We want to go look for comparisons. We want to understand like the differences. And so you said, I know SEO. I don't love it. It's not my favorite thing. It's not what I love creating content for, but like it's a necessary evil because people are going to go search for that. And they clearly have. So I wonder, are they using that for ads, like as a bidding page that they're competing against? Are they using it for nothing? They probably need it to rank a little bit better in some of those capacities. So they probably need to be linking to it. They probably need to be doing lots of different things because that feels like a pretty important piece for them when someone would be researching, am I going to use FreshBooks over QuickBooks?
Yeah. And I don't understand. They just don't talk about it. And I don't think FreshBooks, I don't know how you could not talk about it, if that makes sense.
They do have under helpful links a QuickBooks alternative. So that's where the page is. So we found it now. And this is the page that you found. But they have that review up top. Yeah. But I would think, and it doesn't even have to be, because I also understand the concept of, we don't really want to put our competitor up front. We don't want that to be the thing that we're kind of.
For most industries.
Correct. But for something like this, I would say 9 times out of 10, you know that that's going to be the conversation that comes up and you're trying to break through the mold. So I think you have to make it a bigger part of the outreach, of the amplification strategy even, right? So like, how are people getting to this page? If they're scrolling to the bottom, they might not be thinking as intuitively as we are to say, I'm going to go to the bottom and find this in the links, right? Because who would do that?
No, they're not doing a live show, right?
Correct.
So I mean, I think my thing here is, what if I respect not calling out QuickBooks. So what if we did it potentially like this? I'm just going to go an option like, why us? Or
something like why
that gives me and you can call them the other guys, right? Like, this is how the other guys think about accounting software and why it screws you, Mr. and Mrs. Small Business Owner. And here's what we're doing to change the world. And if you give me that story, I'll eat it. I don't know if there's anything for me to eat here. It's so cut and dry. It's almost like they are pretending they don't exist while also simultaneously being little brother.
I
like,
especially, I do like this too. I like their. I love it when you can show us.
For SMBs in the blue collar space, like their driving is one of their biggest tax credits. So like, this is a huge value prop. So if you showed us why us, and you saw, here's 3 ways we help you save 25% more than the competition on taxes. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's a real story that we haven't told because it's just so matter of fact-ish. Proposals. Remember the proposals part I was talking about? Looking for sharp proposal software? Okay, well, this isn't quite Proposify. No offense to FreshBooks. But you might, this looks like an invoice, not a proposal. So I think we might be a little wrong on that one. Yeah. Oh, but they do have the contract, which is a big part of it. See how they have stuff? Notifications, e-signatures, reviews. Like, this stuff is what they need. It's just, I don't know if, how do you have to click on this? How do you get to their story? Like, what story are they telling us, Holly?
Yeah, I think what's interesting, and I think that this is a crux of all marketers, right? When you're looking at, or all companies trying to tell a story on a website, right, is focusing on like the features of solutions. So right now they're focusing on features. I think the who's it for is supposed to be the solutions, but even when we clicked into who's it for and we went through whichever one we were on, right?
Yeah.
We saw some of that stuff a little bit more buried and kind of picky
Well,
and
they say
choosy
things that don't matter. Know your business and how it's changing.
instead of
Automated
maybe,
billing. It's like it's
yeah.
2022, fam. Everybody has automated billing. You see, why do we exist? I want to feel that. Like, I want to know why does the world need FreshBooks?
And even that under features, as it kind of showed you where that fits into kind of the overall, hierarchy of what you're doing, right? So what were we on? We were on proposals, I think. And at the bottom, you saw it sits here around with all these other different things, being able to see that as a solution. So how do all of our features fit into a solution that you would use as a small business owner? I think is a lot more, see, exactly. Like, and it's showing you it connects to e-signatures and different things, being able to show how maybe it connects to integrations. So you know that this is going to be an easy slot into all the tools that you're already using. I think solution-based, especially when you're trying to attract small business owners who already are strapped for time, who already are doing all of these things, who are already trying to run a business, I think is a way to go if you're trying to sell a solution like they are, which is what it feels like. They're trying to sell an alternative to QuickBooks, not just features and functionalities. Like, you're not going to necessarily win on one-off tools that way, right? You need to win on the full takeover, because you're not going to go use QuickBooks and then say, okay, and we're going to integrate with FreshBooks to get mileage, right? It's going to be a one or the other.
I have a thought, Holly. So I'm FreshBooks. I'm the, let's say, chief marketing officer or CEO, and I'm looking at the whole thing. Isn't it easier to make QuickBooks the bad guy? Because it's kind of like the by you for you. You know how it's always like people are like, we were all, gym rats, and so we built a clothing line for gym rats.
Yeah.
We are the underdog, and we built a accounting software for the underdog. Like, I don't know, why can't they play the underdog card and create an emotional connection with the SMB owner who doesn't want to use the big corporate Intuit QuickBooks because they don't feel like this is a very unemotional. I mean, QuickBooks is like by accountants for accountants, boring by it is boring. You get what I'm saying? Why not go and be bold and tell your story and create an emotional connection too? Because that's what I'm missing. It's like, I don't know why I want FreshBooks to be FreshBooks instead of like a worse version of QuickBooks in their positioning.
Yeah. I mean, again, like they're leading with features, functionalities instead of leading with a story or a value or a solution. They're not connecting necessarily directly with the audience, which is and we talked about this even before we started, right? That that's the future. We as humans want to connect with other humans. We want to know empathetically, like, how is that going to help me? How are you going to help me? So yeah. And I think that there's a way you can do that without having to say, no QuickBooks.
Their name. You don't have to say their name ever.
Right. You can still do it in a way that says, I mean, I love the concept too of if they are people who are small business owners that are creating this because they have this problem, that's a story. Why would you not be talking about that? They need to get on a podcast.
That's exactly how I'm kind of seeing it. And my point being here is you don't beat Salesforce with features. That's the premise of their product. You beat it with simplicity and usability, but I don't ever get that messaging out of Freshworks. Do you see, if you're Pipedrive, and Pipedrive's actually been quite successful. Oh, that's freaking hilarious. The first CRM designed by salespeople for sale. I'm literally giving them the playbook, and I'm ironically finding it in every other industry where you're competing with the behemoth. How do you differentiate, right? That's what I'm trying to look at. They only have 95,000 companies, and I think we said FreshBooks has 30 plus million users.
Yeah. Let's go to their About Us page. Let's see, is that where the story is hidden?
The FreshBooks story. Once upon an invoice. 552,003. Microsoft, a 4-person design agency when it came to building climates, word herself, frustrating. Use there. Yes, it's by SMB owner for SMB owner. This is me. This is why I want to use you. This photo.
Yes, I love this. And if you actually go to the actual About Us page, because this is the story. So, and actually I love the timeline here that they're giving you how this all happened, how this developed. On the About Us page, they have over 24 million people have used FreshBooks, over 60 billion invoices paid through, so they, is it? Yeah, so they have some of that stuff that you would think would be really impactful, what we saw on that when you signed up page, where it said right away, save $7,000 in some of those. Those are some of the values too that I think people connect with, because people connect with like the instant savings. People connect with seeing that other people have done it. Other people have trusted money through this. People spend time in here. They
Their
have a philosophy.
Their team.
People want to buy from people. People don't want to buy from like the big, I mean, they do want to buy from the big companies because they know they can trust it. But I think that headline right there could be exactly what, you said earlier.
Watch this.
I love that you
What if you made the accounting software built? Have I heard of it? Built for underdogs. Now let me do it. Oh, what an interesting day today. Okay. But essentially, I would have accounting software built for underdogs, and I would tell my underdog story to everybody and make them fall in love with me.
Yeah, I think
you took on QuickBooks and you beat them. Like, I think I could totally tell that story. Like, we took on QuickBooks and beat them. You can take on your competition and beat them too. Here's how FreshBooks is the ultimate partner for SMB owners around the world. Now I got a story.
Words matter.
It really does, because we went after QuickBooks by being as boring as they were.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not the quote, the founder and tax director from McCormick Tax Group. Jessica's not my quote. Helped tremendously with cash flow. That's not my quote. My quote's more like, before FreshBooks, I was struggling to win. After FreshBooks, we took market share and became the most successful business in our neighborhood or whatever. It's like, wow, I want to be the most successful business in my neighborhood.
Customer quotes are hard. I'm getting one from you as soon as this is over for Cassett's website.
Good, I got you. My point being here is, like, I love the fact that FreshBooks is like built an exceptionally successful business. I just want them to be FreshBooks.
It's to be their own thing, right? But even we kind of even addressed the elephant in the room, though, is like they know that they're going to be compared to other people. So if they use, some of that stuff that we saw earlier that we went and found at the bottom of the website in a smart way, that people can find it when they search for it, that people are looking for the alternative, that people are, well, that was crazy. That kind of solves some of that issue, and that opens the way for you. I think it's an interesting conversation to talk about how you can use storytelling and content, and it can serve all these different purposes without it taking away from the message, right? So you can go and use storytelling. You can go and do all these different things. They can have a podcast where they sit and talk like we are about how they started things, how they did that. And that could fuel so much of the story that we're seeing, the content that we're creating. And they can still go create those comparison tracks that they can SEO, they can put ad spend towards, they can do all these different things that when people are searching and people are looking for that, they're getting that, but then making it more enticing to click through and learn more about, well, why was this different? Why, outside of features and functionalities, would I want to choose something like this and use it? Storytelling is so important. It's so important because people want to buy from people. They want to buy from humans.
And I want you to synthesize that for us, Holly. First off, Mike, if you're out there, if you ever see this, like, call me. I want to help you because your story is awesome, and it's also buried, and you're competing with QuickBooks by being QuickBooks instead of being FreshBooks. And I don't think that makes any sense. But congratulations, Mike. You've just hired Holly as the new CMO, and she has 3 core pillars that she wants to implement in 2022 to help reposition and retell FreshBooks story and gain market share. What are those big 3 things you want to do, Holly?
Starting with brand, I would say storytelling. So kind of reconfigure what we're looking at from a content perspective. I think you can look at brand and separate that outside of every other thing, because when you're thinking about a business initiative and what you do, brand drives demand, right? So if you take what we just talked about and you say, we're going to take that brand story and we're going to center it around everything that we're doing, you already have a better story. You have better content. You have better things that you can drive people to. I would say this, yes. And again, humans want to buy from humans. So if you can also then go and talk to people and he can tell his story about all the different things he can do. And I have experienced that. And
they want to work for people. He needs the engineers from QuickBooks to help improve his product roadmap. Like, they want to work for Mike. They don't want to work for Intuit. There's a real sense there.
and like brand, like the storytelling piece, like the culture piece, all of that should be front, because we just saw that was buried kind of within the bottom. You couldn't even get to it from the top, right? So I would say that's one. I'd say from like a demand perspective, thinking a lot more through searchability on some of the things that you're creating, because people are going to compare you to that. And so you can't necessarily go apples to apples with them. But if you create those comparison charts, if you create articles and different things that are specifically for when people are searching for this to bring them into your story, I think that changes things pretty drastically. So I would say a better search friendly strategy here within kind of the content and the demand piece that you're doing. There's so many things. I would also say solutions. I want to touch on pricing because I think it was a bit confusing, but I don't know that that's necessarily like the end all be all, because the price point of those
It was really good
as long
as we didn't slow down and evaluate.
Correct.
Until I actually started going into it.
As long as you're not getting into it. But I do think solutions, them focusing a little bit more on how all of this stuff helps a small business owner or the different businesses they were going after, I think that clarifies some things and it helps them understand and envision how can I actually use that product a little bit better than looking at all the features, because looking at a feature list like that can be incredibly overwhelming and can turn people off pretty quickly. So I think those are the three I would focus a little bit more on: brand with storytelling, demand with searchability, and comparisons, and then solutions.
I love it. Holly, that was amazing. I think my only feedback would be they don't have enough pages to not just hire one copywriter and have it be like the best ROI they've ever had. Like if they just had one copywriter at that company full time.
I'm going to let you know a secret. You don't even have to do that. Just have somebody sit and ask the CEO a million questions, transcribe it, and put it all over put it into blog posts, pull that out and put it into the About Us page. I have worked at so many businesses where I was the sole person creating content, and that's what I did. I even did it at an organization where I led a team of 5. I still sat with the founder and I said, I'm going to ask you 10 million questions and we're going to talk for 3 hours. And then we're going to transcribe that and turn it into things, because it immediately takes out some of the guesswork and it gives you like word for word exactly how they would have it, exactly how they would say it. And you just get so much more value out of that. So conversations.
I love it. Holly, thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. It's another episode of SaaS Marketing Makeover. FreshBooks. I think, genuinely, I do think the world of you. Taking on QuickBooks is not a remotely simple thing. I just want you to tell your story because you have an amazing story that I had to really scroll to find. So thanks for being our muse today, FreshBooks, and everyone else. Thank you. That's another episode. Holly, how can people follow you, find you, learn more?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Holly Pels. I never tweet, so I'm so sorry. But you can also find me on LinkedIn, Holly Pels, or you can find us at Casted.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And that's another episode. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.